Hello. Do you still think trains and ships are the safest transportation? Well, our compilation of the most incredible train and ship failures is here to make you think twice. The driver of this car carrier thought he had calculated everything down to the last second. But then the crossing gate started too close. Fortunately, he had already covered half the distance, and his sluggish reflexes only cost him the last two empty cars. The engineers spent weeks loading and securing the containers on this train, but they didn't spend a single minute checking if it would pass the first week. Many people know that bumpers are installed at the end of tracks to prevent trains from running away, but no one was prepared for it to happen during this test session. The Czech railways had never seen a disaster like this. A train carrying limestone derailed near the German border after traveling at a speed 3 times higher than allowed on that section. Fortunately, the limestone was the only victim. That's why it's so important for trains to reduce their speed on curves. A few kilometers per hour over the limit can trigger a domino effect of derailing cars. Once it stops, there's no stopping it. A couple of years ago, in Hungary, all the cars of a passenger train derailed, except for the locomotive. Miraculously, none of the passengers were injured. Not only can speeding and curves cause problems, but a sudden break can also derail an entire train. And although the cleanup will take some time, at least no one was injured this time. An ordinary day in California turned into a local apocalypse when 4 train cars derailed at a crossing, damaging the tracks, the road, and several parked cars. Not all failures are the driver's fault. Sometimes a simple error in securing a load can paralyze an entire railway. Wait a minute. Is this a derailment on another track? You guessed it. This happens when half of the cars change day and the other half doesn't. Imagine being this unlucky engineer. After accidentally uncoupling the cars, he had to flee from his own train as it sped away and finally came to a stop. Hundreds of kilometers later. Some drivers in Southeast Texas witnessed a massive derailment of a trekking. The good news is that only the train's cargo and local traffic were affected. After a decade of work, this freight train engineer probably didn't expect anything to surprise him upon leaving the St. Blue depot. But as you can see, he was wrong. Imagine, a single defect in one M of kin was enough to derail a train several kilometers long. Luckily, its tank cars were not carrying hazardous materials. This video from England is a good reminder that you should only cross the tracks at designated points. By the way, let us know in the comments if you know why those sparks fly. Believe it or not, another freight train had an unexpected fate at a crossing, which is not surprising given the poor condition of the tracks. Look up from the tracks, because this time the problem came from above when a strong wind blew a branch onto the 25,000-volt power lines. Don't worry, the electricians were the only ones affected. Did you know that it's possible for some cars to switch to the correct track and the rest not? I would still call this luck, because the train was only carrying fertilizer. This person was standing waiting for the train to pass so they could cross. Little did they know it was time to find a different path. If this video were not part of our compilation, you would probably never believe that something like this could happen to a train traveling at such speed. But when the engineer skips a derailment device intended to prevent unauthorized train movement, this is what you get. The only thing more frustrating than a train derailment is a train derailment carrying tons of coal. There is such a high speed that not even a bumper can save you from a catastrophic collision. Don't worry, it was just a shock test. Okay. It's clear that this train didn't calculate well at the moment, but let's be realistic. If you had to choose between dining on hundreds of tons of steel or taking out a small crossing barrier, the choice is obvious. Get ready to be amazed at how these railway workers decided to unload 100 tons of steel all at once. Yes, they use forklifts, and no, they probably won't use them again. Have you ever thought that the wheels of a train could skid so much that they would destroy the locomotive's turbine and even catch fire? Neither did I until now. Watch the world's fastest unloading of a rail car. Sure, it happened while trying to pull out an unloaded wagon, but even so. Imagine the shock of the people of Madrid who, instead of a routine metro ride on a rainy day, experienced the sensation of a submarine simulation with leaks and all. This locomotive literally broke down in the worst place. Now the repair team has to go through a thick cloud of smoke to reach it. Is it hard to imagine how this train managed to accelerate to such a high speed without a driver and then catch fire? Share your wild theories in the comments. This train was heading to an oil refinery in Germany when it derailed at a crossing. Luckily, it was the arrival trip and the tanks were still empty. Have you ever seen a train race? Probably not, but the workers of this Pennsylvania railroad get a front row view every time two tracks converge at this crossing. Watch how a simple mistake by a depot worker releasing an uncontrolled wagon caused the derailment of an entire train on the main track. Now imagine the face of the train conductor when he arrives at his destination and realizes he has lost half of the car somewhere along the way. At first glance, this clip seems normal. Then you realize that the detached car is rolling behind the locomotive because someone forgot to set the handbrake. In cases like this, the engineer has no way of knowing that 1 out of every 100 freight cars has derailed. I hope someone informed him over the radio. I know you're wondering why there are so many repair crews gathered by the tracks. You see, today he has a lot of work because the locomotive of this train is too old for the workload and lowering the revolutions is no longer enough to cool it down. Here's another reason why trains derail: the separation of the rails themselves. When this happens, you not only have to worry about the cars, but also about the rails behaving like broken strings. A locomotive like this weighs about 85 tons. These workers coupled 2 of them and tried to attach them to a moving train. As you might have guessed, stopping quickly was not an option. Fortunately, no one was injured. Even a small object on the tracks can derail a train, let alone an entire car blocking the way. Fortunately, the driver was unharmed. Here is today's highest speed train accident, which took place in a depot. Even with the damaged diesel fuel tanks, no one was injured. Do you still think derailments only happen at high speeds? Watch how this freight train barely gains speed before overturning on a curve. What bad luck. This train traveled 99% of the way to its destination, only to derail before the station, blocking all incoming and outgoing traffic. We present to you the dump car, listed to mechanically unload bulk goods. Guess what? Yes, it's supposed to stay on the tracks. These workers were aware of the risks of dealing with a dump car, so they tied it to an excavator for added safety. But let's be honest, no machine can prevent a 27-ton car from falling when gravity takes over. Apparently, this locomotive was so delayed that it decided to take a shortcut through the city. Check it out. It even uses the turn signals. Accidents like this happen when not even a bumper can compensate for the lack of attention from a locomotive driver. Fortunately, the weight of the train and gravity combine to stop it. The engines of locomotives operate at extremely high temperatures, so unfortunately, overheating is not uncommon. But train crews are well trained to handle these situations. Don't ask me why trains are better than other transportation options. Look at how this train goes through a flood in Semarang. It's not often you see a scene like this. Due to scheduling delays, a dispatcher accidentally sent two trains onto the same track heading directly towards each other. Fortunately, the drivers were alerted in time to avoid the collision. This locomotive collided with a road milling machine at about 100 kph. Imagine the destruction caused by the derailment, or better yet, look. The good news is that no one was injured. Don't be surprised by this dramatic effect under the wheel. Remember that this locomotive weighs about 80 tons and that the rails and wheels are as smooth as ice. It's part of a 4-car urban train. Where are the other 3? It turns out that the driver didn't realize the last car had derailed and was waiting to be rescued on the tracks. Now watch as a high-speed train passes through a station, creating an intense dust storm at the maximum allowed speed. This is the famous Mai Krok Railway Market in Bangkok, where vendors fold their stalls as the train passes. Of course, the rails can't always be perfectly straight, but this is something else. The engine of this locomotive is on its last legs, but look at it. It keeps doing everything possible to finish the job, even though a broken axle is burning. It turned this train into a heart-stopping spectacle for anyone at the station. But don't rush to call a cardiologist. It stopped without incident. This parked car was too close to the tracks. How close? Look what happened when the first train passed. Freight trains can weigh thousands of tons, which means they will keep rolling even over the sleepers and long after derailing due to debris on the tracks. The launch of this train can make you feel like you can smell the diesel through the screen. Believe it or not, moose are a surprisingly frequent cause of train delays in wooded areas. And here's why. This railway bridge in Kansas City became a headache for emergency services when a 600 meters long freight train derailed right in the middle of it. Train engineers don't watch horror movies because they don't need to. The rotten and twisted tracks were scary enough. Fortunately, the train was moving slowly and stayed on the rails. Imagine the frustration of the railway workers watching a freight train they spent a week loading derail right in front of them. This tank car had to be placed back on the tracks with a crane. Honestly, the workers would have been better off coming up with another way. If you see special effects coming out of a locomotive's exhaust pipe, it means it's operating at the limit of its capabilities. You've already seen everything that happens when a train has axle problems. Now see what it looks like when the axle is a big problem, completely missing. These shocking images come from a depot in the Czech Republic, where a faulty switch did not divert the train to another track. It's not a miracle that the crew came out unscathed. A fully loaded freight train traveling at 60 kph has a braking distance of about 500 meters. In this case, the driver was warned of an obstacle on the tracks at the last moment, but managed to brake enough to reduce the damage. This time, nature itself decided to delay the passengers, creating an obstacle that no engineer could prepare for or avoid at such speed. You've probably already noticed that the worst maintained tracks are usually at railroad crossings. This one in Ohio is no exception. 10 freight cars derailed because of it. When the brakes of a multi-ton vehicle fail, the only option is to clear the tracks and evacuate the driver in time, as was done in this case. That one part of the train switches tracks, while the other half doesn't move or few things. It's not impossible. This engineer clearly overestimated the locomotive's capacity. It's time to get rid of some cars before the wheels give out completely. No matter how wild your imagination, you won't think of a worse time for a train to derail than this. But all passengers were evacuated successfully. Here is a look at the enormous amount of work awaiting the railway teams to clean up after a derailment. On this section of track in Sumaroga, it has a bad reputation among railway workers. What you are seeing now already happened less than a year ago. Who would have thought that a single stone would be enough for a derailed car to get back on the tracks? When crossing a mid-level bridge in Kansas City, this Union Pacific freight train almost lost half of its cars. After a car derailed, a chain reaction occurred, but fortunately, everyone ended up back on the tracks. Imagine this: a railway platform detached just before a crossing and is now traveling on a maintenance track where no one expects it to go. It's hard to believe, but this is considered a railway. In fact, locals use it to commute to their village. Would you dare to ride something like this? Let us know in the comments. Think that a few more kilometers per hour on a curve can have consequences like this. Luckily, everyone evacuated safely. A small mistake can cause poorly secured cars to take a free ride around the yard, even if no damage has occurred. The driver now has the amusing task of gathering them all. At first glance, this derailment in Nebraska seems typical. But then you see the aerial view and realize the speed needed to crush these cars as if they were tortillas. Fortunately, only the cargo was affected. This train won't be going anywhere soon. It froze on the tracks overnight. It seems it won't move until spring. When a magnitude 7.4 earthquake occurred, these subway passengers had no choice but to find a safe place and watch as the car swayed on the tracks. Watch how this distant freight train carrying or keeps rolling on the gravel after derailing. Speaking of job security, the crew of this ship is going to have to face a year of fines. Are all local stories? Nothing like seeing a yacht scratching a €500,000 yacht, don't you think? A $4 axe that saves a $40,000 yacht is quite a rare phenomenon. I wonder which is the better purchase. If these waves are only 1% of the ocean's power, imagine what it could do with its full force. A failed maneuver turned two yachts into Siamese twins. Surely the operation to separate them is going to be very expensive. A look at these racing boats and you realize that repair teams will never run out of work. Imagine how bad a sailor he must be. This guy for his boat decided to take a leap into the void. I'm not sure about the width of this river, but it's certainly wide enough for these two ships to pass. How many posts with red markers do you see in this clip? Incorrect answer. I hope this guy manages his life better than he manages a ship. Damage a huge ship or a little boat? Of course, we go with the cheaper option. Have you ever wondered why the ships in battleship attack with fire? Because breakwaters cause much more damage. Of course, you need wind to sail a boat, but not 18 kph. A low bridge, two ships, one narrow canal. Probably the worst quartet ever assembled. Before booking a cruise, watch as this huge ship crashes into another. No injuries, but now many people are stranded with no way home. The bad news. These empty ships are drifting towards a bridge. The good news. Well, there really isn't any good news. A yacht owner's hatred for everything small cost him dearly. Don't label the crew of this ship as unfortunate just yet. Maybe their mission was to deliver a truck at the bottom of the queue. Additionally, no one was injured. Enjoy this ride with the Coast Guard as they intercept a real pirate ship. Do you think you can handle it? Sure you can. Finally, a yacht perfectly docked. Well, nothing is ever really perfect. This video is physically painful, even for those who most hate Yamaha. Taking a shortcut by land seemed like a fun idea for everyone, except for the propeller. There's a Swedish saying that if you see two men calmly lifting a boat, prepare for failure. This crew set a new efficiency record by maximizing port damage in the shortest startup time. Get ready for an epic collision. I mean, maneuver. Somehow, these ships manage to stay afloat. It's all Poseidon. I wouldn't want this man to get on that boat. The crew of this bulk carrier hates Tuesday, because one Tuesday, an engine problem caused the ship to accidentally collide with another bulk carrier, damaging its tank and starboard side. These geniuses underestimated the depth of the water near the shore and ended up sending a truck in search of Atlantis. Luckily, it was empty. If the captain's confidence could be converted into bridge height, his ship would have passed in. Too bad physics doesn't work that way. Don't ask how this couple's day is going. A kayak just left them floating on a lull.
This is fine.
This video perfectly demonstrates the strength of Category 5 Hurricane Milton. Throwing a real yacht onto a roof is no more difficult than doing it with a toy boat. This boat does a great imitation of the Earth spinning on its axis. Give it a like for the effort. This guy was about to become a submarine captain, but fortunately, his boat was towed just in time. Orange underwear for a yacht is like a red flag for a boat. They can't resist crashing. Luckily, no one was hurt. An offer of buy one and get three in the shipping sector is much less attractive than in grocery stores. Thanks to such skilled maritime carriers, local loggers could go bankrupt very soon. A low bridge isn't a problem when you have a high IQ and many relatives. Imagine the job interview for this ship. What do you know about proportional weight distribution? Not much. You're hired. Good thing everyone got out safe. Let's all chip in some money so that Ghost Rider can get boat driving lessons. It would do him a lot of good. Officially confirmed, seasickness can be transmitted through the screen. I've tested it myself. Have you ever heard that opposites attract? Well, this boat heading straight for a rocky shore proves it. By the way, the captain is fine. As you can see, Hurricane Milton is not just a human phobia. Ship spirit too. The average tanker is 300 meters long. So guess this, how nearsighted is the captain of this tiny ship? Leave your answers in the comments. An unmanned tanker drifted from Antarctica to France, carrying 300 liters of fuel, enough to cause a major ecological disaster if it reached the coast. Fortunately, the rescuers prevented any damage. It seems it's time for you and this woman to cool off a bit. You can't go through a narrow passage without colliding with another ship. That's a rule. Guys, calm down. With all too many orders during a time, it's stressing the crews of container ships. This is the story of a sinking yacht, or how sea creatures almost took over a $300,000 mansion. You can tell a captain's skill by how well he docks his ship. This guy, a true professional. A large yacht named Julita collided with another ship during a storm, suffering severe damage to its engine room. What you are witnessing now is the crew's rescue mission. The launch of this ship into the water is like a work of art. It's impossible to look away. A moment of silence for the millions of dollars lost to the rocks in this bay. At least the owner is okay. Well, I think it's safe to say these two ships got very close. Losing control of your emotion now. It's bad, but losing control. Your boat due to a strong current is even worse. Next time you feel useless, remember these ships at the bench. Navigation systems, and yet they couldn't avoid a collision. And that's all for the train failures today. Don't forget to tell us which one most incredible, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more content like this.